for the rest of us when we go on vacation.
Thanks, Russ.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. I think it's very commendable. And that's one of the things I like about these Zoom meetings because, if we are traveling somewhere or called out of town or, whatever, I think it's great. All right. Well, good evening and welcome. It is now 6:30 and the City of Cuyahoga Falls May 10th, 2021 council meeting is now called to order. Ms. Capriola, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Balthus?
Here.
Mr. Brillhart?
Here.
Mr. Gorbach?
Here.
Mr. Ayula?
Here.
Mr. James?
Here.
Ms. Loza?
Here.
Mr. Miller?
Here.
Ms. Nichols Rhodes?
Here.
Mrs. Penta?
Here.
Mrs. Spinner?
Here.
Mr. Stans?
Here.
Thank you. Let the record show that everyone is in attendance. We will now have the invocation by Mrs. Spinner.
Thank you. Dear God, as we assemble together, we ask this time be fruitful for all those involved. Let wisdom penetrate each of our hearts and minds so we accomplish the tasks set before us. And let those tasks bear the weight of serving our community in the most beneficial ways we can. For all this we pray, amen.
Amen. Thank you. We will now stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and will be led by Mr. James.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
And
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
thank you. Moving down the line, next council meeting will be Mr. Stams. Will lead us in the pledge. All right, tonight we're going to have an executive session, and I thought what we would do is have the executive session after the miscellaneous business. So before adjournment, then we'll go into executive session. That way we'll get all our regular business taken care of. The minutes for the April 26th meeting were sent out, and my fault, they were sent out kind of late. Has everyone seen the minutes? Are there any additions, corrections? Then they will stand as written. Ms. Capriola, do we have any petitions or claims or communications?
Yes, Mr. President, we have a letter from Mayor Walters dated May 7, 2021, regarding the appointment of Alicia M. Harris to the Planning Commission.
Okay, and that's it?
That's it.
Okay. Then there's probably no time like the present. I will now call to order the Committee of the Whole to discuss the mayor's appointment to the Planning Commission. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yes, tonight I'd like to present Alicia Harris to the vacancy on Planning Commission. And if you recall, this is a new term. This was the one that was the charter change. It removed the council member as a voting member and added another position to Planning Commission from the public. So this is my appointment from the public. Alicia Harris from Cuyahoga Falls, graduated in 2007, attended Miami of Ohio for architecture. She's worked in property development design consulting. She was interested in Historic Design Review Board, which there is no opening, and talking to her seems like a perfect fit for planning. So I ran by some of the duties of that, and she was amenable to that. She is on here tonight, here to answer any questions you may have. So I respectfully ask for your confirmation.
Thank you, Mayor. Ms. Harris, do you have any comments or anything?
No, I'll just give you a quick little snippet, background information that maybe Mayor Walters didn't go over. I was born in Cuyahoga Falls, and then I went to college, lived in California afterwards for a few years, and now my husband and I just bought our first house on 2nd Street. We're excited to be owners of property and not just renting, blowing our money, and I just feel like this is the perfect fit for me, and I'm here for any questions. Thank you. Do we have any questions or comments?
Mr. Balthus.
Thank you, Mr. President. No questions, but I just want to thank you so much for your willingness to serve all of these committees and appointments and commissions. They take time and energy, and not just going to the meetings, but preparing for the meetings. I have no doubt you'll do a great job, and really appreciate you stepping up to this important role in serving the community. So just want to say thank you, and we really appreciate your commitment. And Mayor, I think it's a great choice. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Balthus. Mr. Gorbach.
Thank you. The Honorable Russ Balthus from California took most of my comments, but so I appreciate you calling in from the West Coast. But this committee is, there's some heavy lifting in this one. Meets every Tuesday, and quite a lot there. So we appreciate the background you have and your excitement to serve on the committee. And as Mr. Balthus appropriately said, I think Mayor Walters chose well, and we look forward to you serving on that committee. We rely on it. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? At this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the appointment to Alicia Harris to the Planning Commission.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Well, who made the motion first? Was it Ms. Nichols Rhodes?
Jerry can take it.
Jerry? Okay.
Thanks,
Motion
Mary.
is made by Jerry James, seconded by Mr. Ayala to approve Alicia Harris appointment to the Planning Commission. All those in favor, please signify by saying yes. Yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, say no. Congratulations, you are approved unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we will now move along to introduction of new ordinances and resolutions. Ms.
Mr.
Caprell.
President, are you going to do the report of special committees?
Which would that be?
Well, you have, you make a report of special committees on the, for the minutes' sake. When you recess out of
Oh, okay, okay.
committee of the whole.
All right. Okay, then we'll do that right now. At this point, we'll do the report of special committees. We have to have a motion on that too?
A motion and a second, yes.
Okay, we'll have a motion and a second to approve Alicia Harris to the Planning Commission.
So moved.
So moved. Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mary Nichols Rhodes and a second by Mr. Gorbach to approve the mayor's appointment of Alicia Harris to the Planning Commission. All those in favor, please signify by saying yes.
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 Any opposed, say no. Okay, now you're officially on there. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Caprell. Now we'll have the introduction of new ordinances and resolutions.
Temporary ordinance B31, presented by the administration. An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a subaward grant agreement with the Institute for Intergovernmental Research for the Comprehensive, Secure, and Responsible Drug Disposal Program in an amount not to exceed $99,774 for the purchase of drug disposal bags, and to make the necessary appropriations for the same and declaring an emergency.
Finance and Appropriations, Mr. Gorbach.
Temporary ordinance B32, presented by the administration. An ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into a contract or contracts without competitive bidding with Atlantic Emergency Solutions, Inc. for various vehicle repair, supplies, and equipment used by the fire department and declaring an emergency.
Finance and Appropriations, Mr. Gorbach.
Temporary ordinance B33, presented by the administration. An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract or contracts without competitive bidding with AT&T Corp. For the lease of public safety answering points and related equipment and software, and declaring an emergency.
Finance and Appropriations, Mr. Gorbach.
Temporary ordinance B34, presented by the administration. An ordinance authorizing the director of law to enter into a settlement agreement in the case of BW et al. Versus City of Cuyahoga Falls and declaring an emergency.
Finance and Appropriations, Mr. Gorbach. All right, thank you. There are no public hearings tonight, and we just took care of our special committee meetings. So we'll have reports of our standing committee meetings. Planning and Zoning, Mrs. Spinner.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Planning and Zoning Committee has 2 items for council to vote on tonight, temporary ordinances B21 and B22.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
Is Dana going to read?
Dana, you're on mute.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Excuse me. Temporary ordinance B21, presented by the administration upon recommendation of the Planning Commission. An ordinance accepting the Planning Commission recommendation for the demolition of an existing boat repair building and construction of a 14,500 square foot addition to an existing boat storage building to accommodate the repair operations of Buckeye Sports Center at 4610 State Road and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Planning and Zoning Committee voted in favor of temporary ordinance B21 to come out of committee for a vote tonight, and I move for its adoption.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. A motion by Mrs. Spinner and a second by Mr. Miller to approve temporary ordinance B21. Are there any remarks?
No remarks, Mr. President.
Question.
Question has been called. All those in favor of approving temporary ordinance B21, please signify by saying yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, say no. Motion passes 11-0 unanimously.
Temporary ordinance B22, presented by the administration upon recommendation of the Planning Commission. An ordinance authorizing and approving a preliminary subdivision plat for Princeton Place on parcel numbers 3500517 and 3500402 and declaring an emergency.
Mr. President, the Planning and Zoning Committee voted in favor of bringing temporary ordinance B22 out of committee for a vote tonight, and I move for its adoption.
Second.
We have a motion made by Mrs. Spinner and a second by Mr. James to approve temporary ordinance B22. Are there any remarks?
No remarks, Mr. President.
Question.
Question has been called. All those in favor of approving temporary ordinance B22, please signify by saying yes. Yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, say no. Motion passes unanimously 11-0.
Thank you, Mr. President. That concludes the Planning and Zoning meeting.
Thank you, Mrs. Spinner. Finance and Appropriations, Mr. Gorbach.
Yes, thank you. We have 4 temporary ordinances to vote on this evening, beginning with temporary ordinance B23.
Temporary ordinance B23, presented by the administration. An ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service to enter into a contract or contracts without completed bidding for the stabilization of Akron Peninsula Road in the city of Cuyahoga Falls and declaring an emergency.
The Finance Committee voted in favor of bringing out temporary ordinance B23 for a vote this evening, and I move for its adoption.
Second.
We have a motion to approve temporary ordinance B23 made by Mr. Gorbach, seconded by Mr. Ayula. Are there any remarks?
I have none.
Question.
Question has been called. All those in favor of temporary ordinance B23, please signify by saying yes. Yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, say no. Motion passes unanimously 11-0.
Temporary ordinance B25, presented by the administration. An ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service to enter into a modification of contract number 8100 with Quality Control Inspection, Inc. and declaring an emergency.
The Finance Committee voted in favor of temporary ordinance B25 for a vote this evening, and I move for its adoption.
Second.
We have a motion made by Mr. Gorbach and a second by Mr. Ayula to approve temporary ordinance B25. Are there any remarks?
I have no remarks.
Question.
Question has been called. All those in favor of approving temporary ordinance B25, please signify by saying yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, say no. Motion passes unanimously, 11-0.
Temporary ordinance B26, presented by the administration. An ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service to enter into a modification of contract number 8076 with Lake Erie Construction Company and declaring an emergency.
The Finance Committee voted in favor of temporary ordinance B26, and I move for its adoption.
Second.
We have a motion to approve temporary ordinance B26 made by Mr. Gorbach, seconded by Ms. Nichols Rhodes. Are there any remarks?
No remarks.
Question.
Question has been called. All those in favor of temporary ordinance B26, please signify by saying yes. Yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, say no. Motion passes unanimously, 11-0.
Temporary ordinance B27, presented by the administration. An ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service to enter into a contract or contracts according to law for the demolition of structures located on 3427 Cuyahoga Lake Road within the city and removal of demolition debris and certifying the cost thereof to the county fiscal officer for collection in the manner provided by law and declaring an emergency.
The Finance Committee voted in favor of bringing out temporary ordinance B27 for a vote this evening, and I move for its adoption.
Second.
We have a motion to approve temporary ordinance B27 with the second made by Mr. Raiula. The motion was made by Mr. Gorbach, second by Mr. Raiula. Are there any remarks?
I have no remarks.
Question.
Question has been called. All those in favor of temporary ordinance B27, please signify by saying yes. Yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, say no. Motion passes unanimously, 11-0.
Thank you. That concludes our report.
Thank you, Mr. Gorbach. Public and industrial improvements, Ms. Nichols Rhodes.
Yes, Mr. President, this evening we have one item to report to the whole of council this evening. It's temporary ordinance B28.
Temporary ordinance B28, presented by the administration. An ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service to enter into a contract or contracts according to law for the repair and resurfacing of Chestnut Boulevard from State Road to Second Street and declaring an emergency.
The Public and Industrial Improvements Committee has voted in favor of bringing temporary ordinance B28 out with a favorable recommendation, and I move for its adoption.
Second.
We have a motion to approve temporary ordinance B28 made by Ms. Nichols Rhodes, seconded by Mr. Stams. Are there any remarks?
I have no remarks.
Question.
Question has been called. All those in favor of approving temporary ordinance B28, please signify by saying yes. Yes.
Yes.
All those opposed, say no. Motion passes unanimously, 11-0.
And that concludes our report for this evening, Mr. President.
Thank you, Ms. Nichols Rhodes. Public Affairs, Mr. Balthus.
No report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Balthus. Community Development, Mrs. Penta.
Mr. President, tonight we have two ordinances to review. It is B29 and B30.
Temporary ordinance B29, presented by the administration. An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a community reinvestment area agreement with Harbor Castings Inc. and declaring an emergency.
Mr. President, the Community Development Committee is in favor of B29, and I move for its adoption.
Second.
We have a motion to approve temporary ordinance B29 made by Mrs. Penta with a second by Ms. Loza. Are there any remarks?
No remarks.
Question.
Question has been called. All those in favor of approving temporary ordinance B29, please signify by saying yes. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Any opposed, say no.
No. Oh,
Was that a no vote?
it was not.
So, okay, just to be clear, anybody opposed to a temporary ordinance B29, please signify by saying no. There we have it. B29 passes 11-0.
Temporary Ordinance B30, presented by the administration, an ordinance approving and authorizing the mayor to execute a community development block grant agreement with R2K Contracting, Inc. and an amount not to exceed $67,921 and declaring an emergency.
Mr. President, Community Development Committee is in favor of B30 and I move for its adoption.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve temporary ordinance B30 made by Mrs. Penta with a second by Mr. Miller. Any remarks?
No remarks, Mr. President.
Question.
Question has been called. All those in favor of approving temporary ordinance B30, please signify by saying yes.
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 Any opposed, say no. Motion passes unanimously 11-0.
And Mr. President, that concludes the Community Development Committee.
Thank you, Mrs. Penta. We will now go to the announcements of schedule of our next council committee meeting. And just to remark, there will be a public hearing May 17th, which is the next meeting day, May 17th. Planning and zoning, Mrs. Spinner.
Yes, Mr. President, Planning and Zoning will hold a public hearing for temporary ordinance B15 at 6:30 p.m. on Monday, May 17th, and our committee will meet immediately following the public hearing.
Thank you. Finance and Appropriations, Mr. Gorbach.
Thank you. Yes, Finance Committee meeting will begin at 6:35.
Thank you. Public and Industrial Improvements, Ms. Nichols Rhodes.
Subject to call, Mr. President.
Thank you. Public Affairs, Mr. Balthus.
Subject to call, Mr. President.
Thank you. Community Development, Mrs. Penta.
Subject to call, Mr. President.
Thank you. We will now move on to any miscellaneous business. Do we have any other reports to come before council? Hearing none, I move that at this time we dissolve into executive session to discuss pending litigation and legal counsel. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, a motion is made to dissolve into executive session with the second by Mr. Gorbach. Ms. Caparella, will you please call a voice vote?
Mr. Balthus,
Yes.
Mr. Brohart,
Yes.
Mr. Gorbach,
Yes.
Mr. Ayula,
Yes.
Mr. James,
Yes.
Ms. Loza,
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Ms. Nichols Rhodes,
Yes.
Mrs. Penta,
Yes.
Mrs. Spinner,
Yes.
Mr. Stans.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. We will now dissolve into executive session. And for any public that might be listening, what we're going to do is we're going to sign out of this Zoom meeting, and we will, all council members will go into a special Zoom meeting, and then we'll be back to adjourn the meeting.
I can't get out of here.
There's another link to click, isn't there? Yeah, there you go.
Where is it though?
Oh,
You see my screen?
it was
Dana?
in the email.
Yeah, I can see your screen. Is it in the email? Okay. Oh, I see it. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. See you in a minute.
Dana, can you see my screen?
All I see is a blank screen.
Okay. Yeah, that's
And
correct.
now I see Mr. Gorbach.
Tim, I think you're in the wrong, you clicked the wrong thing. There's another link that you're on mute.
Yeah, I thought I did click the other one, but
You're back in city council.
I did not. All right.
You're back with all the cool people now.
Yeah. All right.
Why isn't that working?
I saw the message for a minute that said we were in executive session.
There we go. All right, let's try this. I'm trying to get it to be the whole screen though.
There you go.
And then it goes blank again. Why does it do that? I don't like that. Yeah, we'll just leave it like that, I guess. I don't know why it's not letting me do it full screen. Kind of pissing me off though. There, now can you see it?
Yes.
I'll just leave it like that.
Okay, everyone is here. So at this point, I'll make a motion to dissolve out of executive session and reconvene into regular council.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to reconvene into regular council. Ms. Caprilla, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Balthus,
Yes.
Mr. Brillhart,
Yes.
Mr. Gorbach,
Yes.
Mr. Ayula,
Yes.
Mr. James,
Yes.
Ms. Loza,
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Ms. Nichols Rhodes,
Yes.
Mrs. Penta,
Yes.
Mrs. Spinner,
Yes.
Mr. Stams,
Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Caprilla. We're now back in session. Is there any more business to come before council?
Move to adjourn.
I second.
There's a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor, please say yes.
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 Any opposed, say no. Have a great evening, everyone. Thank you.
Good night.
Night.
Good night.
Enjoy your trip, Russ.